Well, hello, Carl and Anthony. Hey, it's the hardcore legend Mick Foley saying hello. What a beautiful afternoon it is. Wow, gorgeous May afternoon. There's a view of the river at the Foley compound. Just want to say hello to you guys and let you know that I'm looking forward to listening to you on A to the K, the podcast. I am not yet exposed to much in the world of podcasting, but I think I'm going to start. I hear great things about you guys. I appreciate you being fans. I'm going to go out on a limb and just guess that you guys are big wrestling fans. So I'm going to thank you for your support over the years. Have a nice day.
Right, so we'll move on to the Ringside Report now. This one probably isn't as full as last week's because there was a lot going on last week. Plus, we did it slightly later, so some of the news that should have been on this week's is now on last week's. Anyway, so we'll start with the fairly obvious news at this point to anyone who follows anything social media-wise at WWE. But we are seeing Kurt Angle return to NXT next week. To be a guest referee for no fucking reason. The interesting part of it is not so much the fact that he's going to NXT to be a guest referee. It's the fact that Kurt Angle's back at all because he was one of the names released. And by all accounts, I recall from his Twitter, he made some comments about it as well. So it seemed like a dead set. And then now they've brought him back in this capacity, which I'm not even sure what this is. Like, he didn't really have much of an in-ring thing going on anyway. But now he's coming back as a guest referee for a match that he had nothing to do with. I think is it Finn and Damien he's going to be guest refereeing for?
I can't even remember. No, I think it's Matt Riddle.
Oh, it is, yeah.
And,
Matt Riddle
Thatcher.
versus Thatcher, yeah. So they're having a match next week, and he's going to be the guest referee for some reason. Okay, be nice to see him.
Yeah.
I have a lot of time for Kurt, but yeah, just more surprised that he's come back literally just weeks after being released as well. It shows you that this is what I was slightly trying to refer to before, that it shows you that they're a bit up and down as to whether these releases stick in some senses.
I still think he's released. I think it's a similar thing to Drake, where basically he can't compete or do anything anywhere else for 90 days as per the release clause. So I think they're probably just going, do you know what? AEW's still solid. We moved Charlotte over. That hasn't done the business. Let's put Kurt Angle on there. While we still got him, just to see whether it gets a spike in
drawing power. Yeah,
yeah,
that's a fair point. I never looked at it like that. He could still be within that 90 days, couldn't he? And he's a stand-up guy, Kurt. He'd probably be quite happily doing something like that.
Yeah,
even running his contract out.
I feel like literally they're just trying to be as creative as they can with the talent that they binned off. Like they were even going to get Sarah Logan to appear at one point, do you know what I mean? And then they nixed it at the last minute. So it's one of them. I feel like they've still got them. They're still theirs. And while they've, a load of superstars on around and they can't travel and things like that, I feel like they're just trying to be creative with it. And I think with the NXT losing so bad as it has been doing and Charlotte not having the result they want, I think they're still looking at ways to get viewers back. And I'm going to watch it to see a sexy Kurt.
Of course, I mean you never miss out on a bit of Kurt. It's the one successful angle in NXT, definitely.
Hey. Savage.
But yeah, I'm always happy to see him back. There's a lot of speculation now. Is going, he wasn't released. He was furloughed, and that. No one's confirmed anything like that. All Kurt said is yes, it's true. I'm back next week, and put the title card up on his Instagram, I think it was. So there's no suggestion that, like you say, he's back in any sort of permanent sense. So it'd remain to be seen. It'd be a shame not to have Kurt on our screens in some capacity in the future, whether it be for another promotion or whatever, because he's a very talented guy. Always has been. I mean, one of my favourite bits is something you've put on our TikTok not too long back, Carl, of him having a rap battle with John Cena. I'll never forget that. Fucking quality stuff, that.
Literally, Kurt Angle, looking back now over them years, he was so funny. There's so many segments with Kurt Angle in that were just hilarious. There's the one where he made Stone Cold break, he's made him laugh, didn't he?
Was that with the little cowboy hat?
The little cowboy hat, yeah.
Yeah.
So they've had that. They've had obviously in with the milk truck as opposed to the beer truck. They had the sexy Kurt thing where he's doing the Shawn Michaels stuff with Sensational Sherry.
They had his whole friendship with Brock was always it wasn't like laugh out loud funny, but they were always doing funny skits with each other when Brock was up and coming. He was putting him over, like when they were trying to outdrink each other on like gallons of milk and stuff. Just daft shit. He's always had good comic ability when it comes to the that side of it. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Absolute
definitely. I
legend.
think it's a shame really that they didn't use him the best that they could have done when he came back. Like they put him in that Jason Jordan angle and stuff. And
Yeah. I actually really liked him as the GM. It was a good way of putting him in without putting him in the ring all too much.
yeah,
But we don't have authority figures anymore, Cal.
yeah,
Yeah,
just literally just click your fingers and a match happens now.
yeah, just have whatever happens. Whatever happens, happens. Yeah, so that's the first one. As I say, it's probably fairly obvious at this point, but I wanted to talk on it a little bit. The next one probably ill placed in my list, but I needed to mention it because it's sort of really sort of all over the place at the minute. The last couple of days, and incredibly sad news actually of Hana Kimura from. I apologize if I'm pronouncing that wrong, but she's a wrestler from Stardom in Japan, and we've had the incredibly sad news that she's actually taken her own life this week. Due to they've linked it in some sense to receiving a fair bit of online bullying, which obviously is just horrible scumbags on the internet there. But yeah, apparently there were a few sort of suspect tweets or posts from her in the last few days where she was essentially saying goodbye to people and stuff. And whilst we don't obviously follow Stardom or know Hannah all that well, it's still devastating news. And obviously, it's rocked the wrestling world. There's a lot of wrestlers who know her and had a lot of time for her. Kairi Sane being a notable one who was sort of trying to speak to her days before, trying to console her in some way. So yeah, I mean, unfortunately, it's a sad one to mention, but I thought it deserves a mention because obviously we need to show our respects really in that sense.
Yeah, I just think I don't know. It's such a horrible one this because she was so young as well. I think she was a wrestler, but I believe most of this stemmed from I think she was on a reality TV show on Netflix.
Right.
Where she lived in a house with like a Big Brother style thing,
Right.
and I believe there was a scene in there or something where she slapped one of the fellas who had washed her ring gear without asking her or something like that, and she just seemed to get a massive load of backlash from the people who watched that show, and she was just getting inundated with death threats and stuff like that, and it's so fucking senseless, and well, people listening to this, whoever you are, if you're listening to this, just typing something through a keyboard, as this anonymous person, and and thinking it doesn't have any consequences. It does. Do you know what I mean? And it's just just fucking be nicer to people.
Yeah, I want to coin a phrase that when basically another totally unrelated wrestling celebrity took her own life, they coined a phrase, and I think it's poignant here, where they said, "In a world where you can be anything, be kind," because there's no need for that sort of scumbag behavior.
Yeah.
Some people will put up with it and take it on the chin, but nobody has to. You can affect people like this, and people really need to think before they type, really, don't they? At the end of the day, just because they can be anonymous and behind the keyboard, it doesn't change the impact they have on people. But
Well, exactly. And it's you can disagree with what someone does, or you could even kind of say oh, I think that was bad or whatever, and us on here, we'll chat shit and say oh, Baron Corbin, we fucking hate him and stuff like that, and it's it's the character he plays, and you know what I mean.
And
it's
that's why I regularly stress that when I'm talking about a particular wrestler, I always stress that it's the character, because they're putting a character out there, and I have nothing. I never have anything against the person. I would never actively go onto their social media to talk shit to them, because that's not what it's about. I'm critiquing a character in a show, and that's it. I'm not why would anyone want to do that? Do you know what I mean? But some people don't break away from the character and the reality of it, and they just. I've seen it before. I've seen people. Funnily enough, I've seen people come at Baron and thinking, why are you doing that? And it's one of the example was when all the releases happened, people actively, I saw a couple of them actively saying, why didn't you go to Baron? Why would you want anyone to lose their job?
Yeah, I mean,
it's not as extreme as what we're talking about here, but even so, it's why would you go out of your way to go and tell somebody that you wish they lost their job? It's just stupid.
Apparently this week this has happened again, the same week where Hannah Kimura's was committed suicide. Peyton Royce had put something on. I'm not sure if it was on a Twitter or Instagram or something, basically saying that people have been messaging her saying oh, how come they brought these guys back and they wish that they got fired and stuff like that. And do you know what I mean? And it's she'd have to address it to say, look, they're playing two characters on screen to basically message them and say like that, you know, you wish that they didn't have jobs, and it's so stupid. People just need to think what they're saying, and the difference between kind of, you know, critiquing a character, or, you know, saying you're unhappy with like a persona and things like that, versus actually willing, you know, ill will on like real people.
Yeah, because like that's the thing, and I never mind a good debate over whether that particular character's over or that particular character's good or whatever like that. But when you go beyond it and it's just spewing hate for no reason, it's just unnecessary.
Yeah, and it's, I don't know, it's just such a shame. You know, Hana Kimura was so young, and apparently was you know, I've not seen much of her stuff, I'll be perfectly honest, but from all accounts, she was, you know, she was heading places. She had a lot of charisma and was, you know, really good in the ring and just getting better and better all the time. You know, it was thought that she would eventually end up making her way to, you know, WWE or AEW, or, you know,
Yeah,
the
I
big
mean, she
stage.
certainly, as we know, she had friends. Certainly one in Kairi Sane, but I believe she had multiple friends in WWE, so it just seemed like a logical direction. And sadly, we'll never see that now.
Yeah.
So yeah, our thoughts go out anyway. To her family. It must be a horrible time. Yeah. Right. So I'll try and segue as best as I can away from that to just silly news stuff now, Carl. If that's okay.
Yeah.
So this one will initially seem unrelated to wrestling, but are you aware that Ruby Rose has decided not to return as Batwoman for season 2 of Batwoman?
I'm not.
So Ruby Rose has decided not to return. No, sorry, I won't repeat myself. So basically, they've renewed Batwoman, which I don't know where it is in the States, but for us it's on E4. They've renewed it for a second season, and Ruby Rose was the titular character of Batwoman, and she has undisclosed reasons why. She, you know, we don't know why, but she's chosen not to come back. She's not returning to the main role. And the reason this is relevant to us is because certain people, certain celebrities have sort of put their tuppence in and said, I'd like to do that. You know, I'll do that. One notable one was Stephanie Beatrice, who plays Rosa Diaz on Brooklyn Nine-Nine, has suggested it. Again, I think that would be a stellar choice. But the other choice...
She does it like Rosa.
How funny would that be?
Deadpan.
But the other stellar choice, or would be an interesting one, to be fair. I don't know what she's like as an actor, but the reason it's relevant to this now, to the Ringside Report, is that Sonya Deville has tweeted saying that she'd like to have her pop at the role as well. Now, you might have noticed that I believe both Sonya and Stephanie are members of the LGBT community, which I think is going to be a large factor because Ruby Rose was, and the character of Cassandra Cain is in the LGBT community as well. So I think they are looking to have that inclusion. But I mean, obviously, I love Brooklyn Nine-Nine, so I'm intrigued by the Stephanie Beatrice thing, especially with it being an actor as it is. But what do you make of the Sonya Deville shout?
It's definitely interesting. I think I don't know.
It's a weird thing for me because we're currently watching her be a heel. I'm like, I can't even picture her as the hero right now. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't say I was massively blown away by the Mandy kind of stuff and the acting within that, but I mean, yeah, go for it. You know what I mean? So it'd be cool if she ended up getting it. Like,
oh yeah. So that's an interesting one. I thought I'd give that a mention. Obviously, at this stage, she's just put a tweet out to the CW or whoever produces it. You know, as a maybe in jet. I'm sure if they turned around and said, "Yeah, come and audition," she would. But you know, it's not like she's in the running or in the auditions yet. It is a tweet, but an interesting one to say the least. The next one. It's sort of news. Basically, there was a large amount of speculation about Ric Flair and his relationship with WWE. In that his contract was due to expire in December 2019, and by all accounts, he had not renewed his contract. So everyone was like, "Ooh, what's going to happen? Is he no longer going to appear? Is that the end? Is he fully retired?" All that kind of stuff. And then it became clear that I think he put up a tweet showing his contract signed to prove that he is still with WWE. I don't know how long for, but he's renewed his contract with WWE. One of the interesting notes about this, and one of the reasons I wanted to include it now, because, you know, old man renews contract isn't really a big news article, but apparently he has had talks with Tony Khan, and everyone was like, "Oh, is he going to go to AEW?" But from what Tony Khan has said, that because of Ric Flair's relationship and history with WWE, he would never have asked him. And not in a disrespectful way, but because he's so synonymous with WWE, that they would never have tried to poach him anyway. What do you make of this almost show of respect between the two companies?
I mean, by all accounts, Tony Khan is just, he gets the business, he gets, the wrestlers, and he gets all that kind of stuff, and he knows that Rick is, he left WWE, he had his retirement match with Shawn, he, was never going to wrestle again, and then he ended up getting divorced, and he ended up needing the money. He had to go to TNA and wrestle and stuff like that, and then he's managed to find his way back to WWE again. He's never always been a WWE guy. He was WCW, he was NWA, he was.
Okay, I mean, half of it, the massively famous part of him was, the move from WCW to WWF at the time,
Mhm.
and taking the title with him. That's some of the biggest stuff that some of the most impactful elements of his career. So you're totally right when you say he's not always synonymous with WWE. I certainly
Yeah.
think in the last few decades, though, he is. You think Rick, you think WWE, don't you?
Yeah, I think he's definitely, now that he's back there and stuff, I think he's that's where he wants to stay and kind of go out his way, kind of thing.
I think it's
So
only right for him to retire there as well. I don't know. I wouldn't have been. I wouldn't have been too. And again, I've nothing but respect for Ric Flair, but I wouldn't have been too happy with AEW signing him, because it would have further brought into that fear that I mentioned before, that they're going to keep bringing old talent back and not rely on the absolutely stellar job they're doing on building new talent. But yeah, I like the fact that they've gone. Even AEW pretty much has gone. No, WWE is the right place for you. Like in terms of, like you say, retiring out there.
Yeah.
So yeah, it'd be interesting to see what capacity he will be in WWE. I imagine he's signed with them in the same way that a lot of legends are signed with them, where they'll make appearances. Like when you see like the likes of Kevin Nash and that appear, it's like, well, there's some sort of deal there. But it's not a performance sort of thing, is it?
Yeah, I think it's like just like a Legends contract, so they get like their likeness, they get they can
Yeah,
use
so
them
they'll
in
be
like
there
video
for video games
games
and
and
merch and stuff. Yeah.
yeah, scattered appearances, stuff like that.
But yeah, so Rick's staying with the company, Cal. The next one I've got is, and this isn't really new news, but it's interesting to see that this is still a thing, is that Vince McMahon is apparently still not very sold on Shayna Baszler. And this is still as a result of her 2019 match in Survivor Series. I think it was the triple threat between her and Becky Lynch and the other lass. And yeah, apparently he was disappointed with the performance in that, which we knew at the time. But it was actually, I think I read it in Forbes magazine, so make of that what you will in terms of credibility. But yeah, the suggestion is that he's still not overly sold on her as a superstar, and that is the reason that she's not currently in the title scene.
I mean, it's unlike Vince to hold a grudge, right? Or to kind
I
of
know,
hold on
right?
to his
I mean,
beliefs.
what the fuck did she do? Sneeze? Yeah, so it's a shame. I think as a character, neither of us have been very sold on her in terms of Mike's skill and how they're putting her across. Certainly the work they're doing at the minute, where she's just like, the comments she's making about Becky being a mum and stuff like that. It's like, it's not really a good way to build a heel. So yeah, I'm kind of on board with her not being in the title picture just yet. But at the same time, if it's down to Vince holding a grudge, you're like, well, let her prove herself. She also had a really good match in the Elimination Chamber. So why are we holding it to just a debut? I think it was a debut match, wasn't it, on the main roster anyway?
Yeah, I don't know. It's a hard one, really. I think she's former MMA. She's okay in the ring, but I don't think she's amazing in the ring. She's still kind of quite green to a degree. But from a gimmick perspective, as this kind of badass who can really hurt you and stuff like that, it's a money gimmick. She literally just needs to be put with a Heyman, or even like a female Heyman. You know what I mean? It doesn't have to be like a man to do her talking or anything like that.
I'm
But
trying to picture a female Heyman. What would that look like?
Vicky Guerrero.
You know what? That's a boss shout.
But yeah, I don't know. I think if she was to play like the silent badass, like just does her talking with her fists, but has someone else to talk for her, then she'd be over, in my opinion. I just think.
I agree, because at the minute we're like, please just do your talking with your fists.
Yeah.
But so yeah, so we'll remain to be seen. She's still holding a main sort of spot on the women's division of Raw, so it's not all bad news for her. But yeah, apparently he's still not overly sold on her. I think it's probably largely down to Heyman fighting for her. I think Heyman was big on her anyway. But yeah, interesting. Her push is on hold, let's say. The next one I've got, and I've not cited any sources of this, Carl, so sorry, I can't legitimize this one for you. But apparently, given Drew Gulak's recent release and his conduct since then, in the fact that he has not tweeted about it. He's not been bitchy. He didn't disclose any information. It's not, he wasn't the source of that coming out. WWE have actually got a lot of, or the people backstage have now got a lot of respect for Drew and the way he's conducted himself during this time. So much to the point that they are now suggesting that there may be some negotiations again. That's how much they were made up with the way he's conducted himself, that they might not be totally done in terms of negotiating a contract deal. I don't think they're going to give him the pay rise that he wanted, but it may be that they're not going to actually renege on their offer, and we could potentially see Drew Gulak back in WWE soon enough. What do you think of that, Cal?
Yeah, I don't know. It's interesting, isn't it? I don't know if he was adamant enough to want the pay rise to just let his contract expire. Then I don't know. Surely the only way he'd go back there is if they did give him a pay rise. But at the same time, it's going to be difficult for them to give him a pay rise when they've just laid off loads of people.
Oh yeah, I think to be honest, I think it was an understandable negotiation to have to try and get more money, especially when you've been pushed more prominently in the main card. But I think I could honestly see Drew going back under some sort of deal, even if it doesn't include a pay rise. Because I don't know how these things work, but surely it isn't just as the bottom line of what you get. There'll be an amount you get from merch. So obviously, if its merch sales increase from being prominent on the roster, you'll make more money. Presumably it works that way as well. So it's always in his best interest to, especially while he's got some heat behind him, to go back to the WWE anyway. But it'll remain to be seen. It's all sort of suggestion at the minute and you would be, he's been very professional about the whole thing, so fair enough to him.
Mm-hmm.
And then the last one I've got, Carl, is sadly we reported last week on at the time I think he was missing, but it's been confirmed that Shad Gaspard had passed away from the whole incident at the Venice Beach. Subsequently, there was a GoFundMe set up for Shad's family to try and raise $100,000 to help them at this time, and an anonymous donation of $40,000 was made. And the only hint or suggestion as to who made that donation was it read CTC RIP. And John Cena has been cited as the potential anonymous donor to this fund. Now, I'll stress this 40,000 actually tipped them over to their goals. This is what helped them reach. He basically, assuming it is John, which seems likely, he basically paid the remainder of what hadn't been raised, which is, incredibly generous. The reason that the suggestion that it's John is firstly the CTC was suggesting that it stood for Crime Time C Nation, and not long after, John Cena put up a picture of CTC spray painted on JBL's limousine from when they were in that angle together. So it seems highly likely that he was the donor. And obviously he worked with them, the pair of them, on the tag team during that angle. And obviously everyone had a lot of time for Shad. But it seems likely that John's sort of made a sizable donation to this GoFundMe. Did you read about this one?
Yeah, I think the fact that it's CTC as well, and there's not many guys in the wrestling biz who've got 40 grand to
yeah, I mean, if anyone could make that sort of donation without it sort of affecting them financially, it would be him.
Based on who you speak to, people will either say seen as lovely or seen as a dick. But if you look at his the Make-A-Wish stuff and things like that, I think when it's something he actually cares about, then by all accounts he's really, really nice guy. So it seems like a John Cena thing to do to push them over.
Yeah, and we've seen when John likes a wrestler, he likes a wrestler. Do you know what I mean? We've seen him work really well with some people, and I think by all accounts he had a lot of time for both members of Crime Time. But I mean, no one really had a bad word to say about Shad. I think you mentioned last week that there's been stories over the years anyway about how much of a hero that guy actually was, stopping robberies and the like. So I totally see why John's done that and why he would have so much time for the man. But nevertheless, it's an incredible thing to do. Even John or not, it's an incredible thing to do. And obviously thought it'd be worth a mention on the old Ringside Report.
Mm-hmm.
And as far as points go, that's my last one, Carl, unless you have any others.
No, nothing new from me. Bit of a lighter list this week, but still some big topics though.
Oh yeah. I think, as I say, we sort of probably robbed a few because of the late filming of the previous weeks. Probably robbed a few that would have ended up on here anyway. So it has been a little bit shorter, but here we are.